topic is the essay. So the essay is going to be a really important component of that. So as I mentioned, grades do matter most, and standardized test scores are a close second, but you are more than your grade, right? So let's talk a little bit about what this means. So you may have heard this, holistic review. So when colleges and universities review your application, we do what we call a holistic review, and this is very common in the US. So there are many, in fact, most countries around the world, when you apply to college or university, it's going to come down to a test score. So for example, I know in Australia, students take a national exam and they list on one single form all of the universities in Australia to which they want to apply. And then based on their score, each university will say the score is good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And the first choice where they are admitted is where they go. Very simple, very straightforward. We don't do that in the US. In the US, we look at the entire picture. So each component of the application serves its purpose, and we admit students based on the overall picture. Some of you may have heard the term before, or the saying, you are more than the sum of your parts. Your whole being is more than the sum of its individual parts. And so with the application process, we kind of say that as well. Your application is more than the sum of its parts. So what does that mean? You might have a great test score. You might have decent grades. You might have a good letter of recommendation. But overall, when we look at you, we might not necessarily think that you're a good fit for NYU. So it's not just about one component. If you don't have the best test score, but you have a strong interest in your major that you're applying for, and you have a lot of volunteer experience in that field, perhaps some of you have started a business, and so you're looking at our business programs, and you have this really great business that you've started and you want to write about that, that's going to help you a lot. So even if you don't have the top score, you might still be admitted. So again, we look at every component, and then we sit together as a committee and say, okay, is this applicant a good fit? What is our overall feeling of this applicant? What is this holistic review? The benefits of the holistic review mean that there's not going to be one single item on the application that's going to disqualify you for admissions. What's difficult about holistic review is that it's hard for us to really say to a student their chances of admission. And it's not always easy for the student to know, because you might come to me and say, okay, I have a 1420 on the SAT. Am I going to get admitted? And it's really impossible for us to answer that without looking at the transcript, the letters of recommendation, your essay, etc. So we want to look at everything. You are more than the sum of your parts, so to speak. Something else that we like to talk about, just to distinguish from the NYU essay, is the general personal statement. So at the NYU application, we have two essay components. There's the general personal statement, which is part of the Common App that pretty much every university requires. And then there's the supplement, which is NYU, which I promise we'll get to next, but I do want to make this distinction first. When you're looking at the overall essay, talking about the general essay of the personal statement, we're really looking at an overall picture of who you are outside of academics and your professional goals. So the purpose of the personal statement is really for us to see your writing ability, how well you write. Are there spelling errors? Are there grammatical errors? Can you write a clear essay with a beginning, a middle, and an end? Can you structure an essay well? So all those times with your writing or English teacher, it's worth it, because we want to make sure that you can write effectively. So that's really one of the major purposes of the personal statement. But also, we want to get to know you personally in that personal statement. So we don't really necessarily want to hear, and this is true again for most colleges, we don't want to hear necessarily in your large essay, large personal statement about your major or about your academic performance or anything technical or logistical, but we would love to hear a story about a challenge you've overcome in your life, or a time where you faced adversity and you still maintained, you struggled through it and you learned a lesson, something that you've learned that's personal to who you are, that tells us more than things that we can see on the transcript or in your letters of recommendation. So that's really the purpose of the large essay. So again, it's unrelated to academics and goals. We don't want to hear a repetition of things that we can already see, but we want to get to know who you are and really give you a voice. So that's really important. The Why NYU essay is a little bit different because it's more specific and it measures fit. So we do want to talk about fit a little bit, because this is really the point of that Why NYU essay. NYU gets about 100,000 applications per year for about 6,000 or so students. So we have way more applications than we're able to admit students at NYU, which is the case, of course, with most competitive universities. And so because of that, it's more than just grades. So we can't just say, okay, we're going to admit all the students with the best grades because we would have too many students. We have a lot of students who apply that have almost perfect grades and almost perfect test scores, if not perfect, and beautiful shining letters of recommendation. So it just wouldn't make sense for us to only admit those students. It wouldn't be possible. It would really be too difficult. So we want to look beyond that. We want to look deeper than that and look at your fit. And of course, the fit means, will you thrive at NYU? When you get to NYU, are you going to enjoy it? Are you going to be able to take advantage of the opportunities? Because there are many, many opportunities at NYU that other schools cannot provide. And we want to admit students who are going to hone those opportunities. We don't want to just admit students who are going to go to class, take good notes, get good grades, and then go back to their residence halls and don't interact with anyone and don't immerse themselves with the NYU community. There's plenty of students who can do that. And there are plenty of institutions where you could do that, and that's fine. It doesn't really work at NYU because we admit students who are independent thinkers, who are learners, who are going to be really active with their learning process, who are really curious. They want to get to know their professors. They want to know about all the opportunities that they can have in the city and across campus. So we want to admit those students who are going to do well. We want to make sure that you will do well academically. So that does come into fit. If you struggled a lot throughout high school and you didn't earn very high grades, and it's clear that, for example, say if you're applying to our pre-med or our nursing program and you really struggled in math and the sciences, you're probably not going to be a great fit academically. The last thing we want to happen at NYU is to admit a student who's going to struggle so hard that they're not going to be able to keep up with their courses and that they're going to have to be on academic probation. So we want to avoid that. This is true for all colleges. When colleges admit students, they want those students to attend. So if we admit students who are just strong academically, we don't know if they're really interested in NYU. But if we admit students for whom we know they're really interested in NYU, then there's a really good chance that those students will attend. And that's true, again, for every college. So if you are applying to your top school, whether that's NYU or a different school, we want to be very purposeful in your application and make it clear that you are a good fit for that institution, because it's more than just grades, of course. We want to see, as I mentioned, that you will contribute to campus, that you will be someone who is going to be really active. Maybe there's a club at NYU that you've heard of that you really love and you want to talk about that with us. Or maybe you have an idea of something you want to bring to campus, and there is no club for some organization and you really want to be a leader and bring that to campus. Are you going to be an active participant in class? Are you going to enrich your classmates' experience by being an active listener and an active speaker and bringing your experiences to New York? So there's a lot of opportunity for that. And also, more simple, more personally, will you enjoy your experience? Are you going to like New York City? If you've never been to a major city and you don't know if you're going to like it, maybe NYU isn't the great idea, isn't the best fit for you, because we are as urban as it gets, right? So you have to make sure that you really want that experience. And we want to make sure that you are a good fit in knowing that you will enjoy that experience. Will you stay at NYU? Are you going to like it? If you come to NYU and you stay for a year and you say, oh, I don't like this, this isn't what I thought it was, and you leave, that doesn't benefit anyone. We want to avoid that. So fit is really, really important because it informs us if you are truly going to do well and thrive at the university beyond just your academic rigor. All right, so the Why NYU essay. So let's talk about what is Why NYU. So it is a supplemental essay, as I've mentioned, on the Common App. And when I say essay, I say that pretty lightly because it doesn't have to be very long. We're not necessarily looking for an introduction, a body, a conclusion. We are only looking for maybe a couple paragraphs, so it can be short. So keep that in mind. The Why NYU essay, we want it to be short and to the point. Whereas the personal statement, we want to really hear about you and look at your writing skills and assess that and hear about you personally. We're not looking at that with the Why NYU question. We're actually looking really directly at what your interest is in a university and your fit and personality and how NYU is going to help you with your goals. So again, the Why NYU essay matters because it's a very simple question. So think about it. So when you're writing your application, the essay is a really big component. You hear a lot of talk about that. You have your letters of recommendation. Then you have this kind of itty bitty question, why NYU? You would be amazed by the number of students who don't take the question seriously and just write very general things or sometimes skip it altogether. This is an insider secret. When we are reviewing applications to NYU and we have all these applications that have very strong academics because we look at grades first, the next thing we're going to do is look at the Why NYU question. Because when we're distinguishing between one really qualified applicant academically and another one, we want to make sure that one of them is a good fit. So if we see that one person didn't take the question seriously and they kind of glossed over it and said, oh, I love New York, I love Broadway, they don't even mention NYU, and the other person writes really specifically about NYU, that's the student who's going to get admitted. So word to the wise, when you're applying to NYU, really put some time into this and some thought. Do your research. It really does matter. It's not just a fluffy side thing. It matters more than a lot of other components in the application. Even though it's short and small, it matters a lot. So again, as I mentioned, why does it matter? We admit very purposefully at NYU, and so we're looking for a very robust, diverse class. So when we're looking at the Why NYU, so for example, the other week we were in an admissions committee for a transfer applicant, and we asked the same question for our transfers. And we were looking at a student who applied to our engineering program. And the student had gone to a school, a previous institution, and it was a fashion-based school. So they took a lot of fashion and arts class. And we thought, that's really strange. So that's a really big jump from fashion to engineering. And their transcript was good. They took a lot of science classes. They earned good grades. They were academically qualified, but we needed more information. And so we looked at the Why NYU question to see, why are they making this switch? Tell us what you want to know logistically about this. And this applicant beautifully wrote about that and said, I started off in fashion. I thought I really liked it. I always loved math and science, but I thought fashion was for me. I started in the field and realized that I didn't like it. And so my true passion after trying fashion is engineering. And I was at a chemical engineering club in high school, and I loved it. That gave us what we needed to know when we admitted the student. So it really does matter in giving us additional context beyond personal statement and beyond the transcript. So definitely write about what you're interested in. And so again, what are we looking for? We're looking for a short answer. So again, a couple paragraphs. We don't need a page-long essay. I think it limits the number of characters anyway. We want it to be concise, so don't be afraid to just jump to the point and say, this is why I love NYU, this is why I want to come, this is why I'm a good fit. We don't need any kind of formal introduction. We want it to be, of course, very honest. So if we are looking at your application and you apply to our College of Arts and Science, but in the Why NYU, all you talk about is the Stern School of Business, that's a big red flag to us. So make sure that it's congruent with the program to which you are applying. If you are undecided, that's fine. You don't have to talk about academics, but you can talk about what you're looking for in NYU. So maybe it's just the culture. Maybe you love that we're a campus without walls. Maybe you love that we have a campus in Accra, in Ghana, and you just can't wait to study away there. One tip of advice that we always give students is make sure that you're writing about NYU specifically. So if you're just writing about any university that is in New York City, then it's probably not very effective. But talk about NYU specifically. So I'm going to say that again and again because that matters most. We see a lot of essays, as I mentioned, that talk about Broadway, or they loved watching the show Friends growing up and they love New York City. But there are so many colleges in New York City. So, but what about NYU specifically that's different from the other many colleges and universities? So, be very honest and make sure that it aligns with the rest of your application. And if there's something we need to know, if you're making a big switch in your interests, let us know that as well, because we're going to look at why NYU is a strong reference as your voice. Okay, something else to keep in mind is this is a really good question that I get a lot. And the question is, Alex, what if I'm applying to more than one institute, or excuse me, more than one major? So what if my first choice is economics in the College of Arts and Science, but my second choice is finance in the Stern School of Business? How do I write that in Why NYU? You can write about both, or you don't have to write about academics specifically at all, but talk about NYU. So a good response might be, I love the College of Arts and Science because of its emphasis on a liberal arts curriculum, and so that's why I'm applying to economics. But my career goals are such that I want to work in finance, so I would be happy with Stern as well. So my advice is, if you're applying to more than one program, write about your career goals. I'll give you another example. We were reviewing a student. Again, this was a student who was applying to the College of Arts and Science as a biology major. And then they were also applying as a second choice to the Tandon School of Engineering. And so unfortunately, they were not admitted to the College of Arts and Science because the committee didn't feel like they were a great fit. So in engineering committee, we were reviewing this applicant, and we needed to know more information because biology is not usually very congruent with engineering. So we said, let's look at this student's goals and their Why NYU question and see if engineering is a good fit. And the student did a really good job in writing that they were interested in studying biotechnology. And we do have a program similar to that in engineering. So we said, great, they're a good fit. But if that student had talked about how they wanted to do research in biology and they loved liberal arts and they wanted to go into medical school, we probably wouldn't have admitted them because they wouldn't have been a good fit. But because they didn't talk about the program, they talked about their career goals, that was really helpful. So hopefully that's clear to everyone. Okay, so to recap, before we go into questions, let's kind of talk about some do's and don'ts with the Why NYU question. So of course, we want you to research the university. So again, avoid the general New York City response to that. If you could substitute NYU's name with another university in New York City, then it's not a very effective response. So do some research. If you don't know enough about NYU, come to our information session, talk to a student, email us, look at our website, which has pretty much everything you could imagine. Get to know NYU, so that way you can write about something about NYU, which is the second point under the do bullet, is focus on NYU. What can we at NYU provide you that other universities in New York City cannot? And so maybe that is this open campus concept. Maybe it is, like I said, a particular club or organization. Maybe it's a faculty member or who does a lot of research, or a renowned faculty member that you would love to take their class. Something specific to NYU. We really need to see that in the Why NYU question, essay, excuse me. Another do, discuss why you are a good fit. So whether it's the campus, the culture of the institution, you love this kind of first name basis, you love being part of this artistic progressive culture. Is it a specific academic program? Do we have a major that no other university has? Why are you a good fit for this? What have you done in your high school that is going to contribute to our campus at NYU? Because again, 100,000 applications, only 6,000 spots. It's more than just academics. We want to know what you are going to bring to us. And you're a very talented group of people. You're going to bring a lot, but write about that. And of course, do talk about plans for the future, career, postgraduate education, etc. If you're undecided, that's okay. But let us know, be specific, especially if you're applying to more than one program. In terms of the don'ts, definitely don't rush through it. Again, we see a lot of students who say, oh, this question doesn't matter, or I'm just going to write a very generic answer. And that sometimes can be the reason why they don't get admitted. Definitely don't think of this as a simple question that does not matter. So again, same thing. Don't forget to focus on NYU, of course. I've said that again and again, so I'll continue to make that point very clear. Don't repeat your personal statement. So that's really important. So if you wrote about some life experience in your personal statement, we've already read that, so don't repeat that. Write about something different. Again, personal statement doesn't really need to focus on academics or goals in your career. It focuses on you as a person. The Why NYU essay does focus on your goals and academics. And then don't write about a different program. So I've already made that example. If you're applying to the Tisch School of the Arts and you're writing about how you just want to get into Steinhardt School, we see that more than you would think. You're probably not going to be admitted if we see that, because it shows that you're not a good fit for the program to which you're applying. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. Let's open up to questions.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was an extensive webinar, and you included almost all the points that we as students and educators were looking forward to, like more about what NYU is, the locations, and also how to write a personal statement, the essay. So I was just a little curious, and I would like to ask a question from my side. That is,
Yes.
as an admission officer, have you found out an essay that stands out from all the others that you had received till date? Like, why NYU essay, the one that is still in your mind? And also,
Mhm.
how would you differentiate the New York University from all the other colleges or universities in New York? What really makes it stand out? This is
Mhm.
just a personal question from my side.
Sure, absolutely. So there are many Why NYU questions, responses that do stand out, but one that particularly stands out to me. So as I mentioned, any Why NYU question essay that clarifies what we're wondering is great. So as I mentioned, the example when we say, oh, you're applying to engineering, but you're a biology student, why? If you answer that question, fantastic. But one that really stands out was I had a student who was applying to our journalism program who had done who had read a lot of the books written by one of our faculty members in the journalism program and had taken real interest, and it was actually this specific faculty member that inspired the student to go into journalism, and they wrote about that and how they can't wait to take their seminar. That stood out to me because I said, oh, you're such a good fit for NYU. You really know this. NYU inspired you. You're going to bring your love of journalism and your impression of this teacher to the campus. That was really good. So any strong connection is wonderful. So in terms of differentiating the campuses, so as I mentioned, New York, Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, all of our campuses have a very strong focus on the liberal arts, but New York has a little bit of everything. So we have 10 colleges, about 250 majors. Abu Dhabi, in addition to the liberal arts, is really focused academically on both engineering and performing arts. So they have really great programs in both of those, as well as health sciences, actually. So very strong. Abu Dhabi is great for students who are looking for a very international experience because the United Arab Emirates has so many expats and folks coming from different countries that the focus isn't just on the Middle East, but it's really on the entire world. So you're going to be in a class with students from probably 100 different countries who speak 100 different languages. Only 15% of the students are from the United Arab Emirates on that campus, and the rest are international. So that's great if you're really looking for that really robust experience. Abu Dhabi is also the one exception. So it is not located right in the middle of the city. It is more of a campus that's off in its own area. So if you don't want that hyper urban experience, then Abu Dhabi might be for you. Shanghai, again, in addition to the liberal arts and sciences, is very focused on business programs. So the campus is located in the financial district of Shanghai in the Pudong district. And so the focus, of course, there would be very strongly on finance and business. But Shanghai, unlike Abu Dhabi, the focus isn't just internationalization, it's really China specifically. So you don't have to speak Mandarin to go there, but you will have to take a lot of Mandarin classes. So if you're interested in speaking Chinese, learning about China's relationship with the rest of the world, that's really the theme and the kind of purpose of our Shanghai campus.
It's great to hear. I'm sure many students from India this time is surely going to apply to New York University, and it's a dream university for many of us.
Sure.
So thanks a lot, Alex. So we have some many interesting questions coming up, and I'm going to take the most common and relevant ones from that. So one commonly asked question is, when it comes to the Indian curriculum, that is CBSE curriculum, what is the cutoff or minimum percentage that is required to get into the New York University?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we always stray away from minimums. We want to talk more about averages. So unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I know that a lot of you are kind of hoping to hear like, oh, this is the minimum, but we actually really don't have that. What we do is we look at your overall grades, and we're going to look at how many of them are in the high marks or in the A range, the equivalent of an A, B, a C. Students who are admitted to NYU typically have mostly A's. So on the Indian curriculum, we're generally looking for averages of at least 81%. And again, that's kind of it's not the cutoff because we do admit students who have grades lower than that, but we don't take an overall average. We're kind of looking at each. So the more competitive programs we like to see in the 90%, but 80, 81 plus is really kind of what we're looking for in terms of your grades. But if you have some that are below that, you might very well still be admitted. So don't let that discourage you from applying.
All right. Another question that came up was like, along with if you're scoring good grades, is extracurricular activities really a crucial part when we're applying to the New York University?
It is, yes. Especially for those who are looking at the Stern School of Business, I will say. I tend to be very honest with people. So we do look very carefully at that. We want to see that students are involved outside the classroom. Obviously, the COVID-19 crisis has put an enormous burden on that. So don't feel like you have to, certainly don't risk your health, and certainly right now we're all kind of in survival mode. So understand that we will know that the world, and certainly especially India, has been through a lot. And so if that came to a halt in March of 2020, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just do your best. Let us know what you have been involved with. If you're able to still be involved virtually in some ways, that's great. If your school has closed down and there's just no opportunity, that's fine. Don't worry about that. But when the times are such that you can be involved, we do expect to see involvement. And I say especially with the Stern School of Business because they really want to see that students are very involved. If a student has top grades and great essays and everything else, but they have very little involvement, they're probably not going to be admitted to Stern. The other schools as well, we do look at for the other schools, but especially that particular program.
Great, that's great. So moving to the last question of this session because we're running short of time. So does New York University provide scholarships to students from India? And also if you are having any sort of priority to students with any disabilities?
Absolutely. So certainly for students who have disabilities, we do have full access on campus for students to accommodate those needs. So excuse me, we have what we call the Moses Center, and that's for student access services. So whether that is a physical limitation or a learning difference or something where you have what you would consider to be a disability, we have services that we legally have to provide you, but also we go above and beyond the minimum to make sure that all your accommodations are met. So absolutely, NYU is the place for you if you are concerned and you have some sort of a disability. In terms of, in the first part of that question, I'm sorry, it went out of my head. It was,
Sorry?
Could you repeat the first part of that question? I'm sorry, before.
If New York University is providing scholarships to students,
Yes,
international
thank you, I'm
students.
sorry. Yes, so we do. So scholarship, so when we say scholarship, we're kind of talking about financial aid in general. And so we provide, most of financial aid at NYU is need-based, and that is for both international and domestic students. There's no difference. We don't prioritize one versus the other. Most programs at NYU, certainly the New York campus, we meet 100% need, and that includes international students. So you have to submit the CSS profile. If you don't submit that, you're not going to get any financial aid. But if you do submit that, we're going to look at your family income and ability to pay. And then based on that, we will bridge the rest of the gap with financial aid, usually grants. We do offer some smaller scholarships, not really merit scholarships. We don't really offer that. But students who have the financial need, who can only afford a certain percentage of the cost, in most cases, we will bridge that with additional financial aid. So most students are, very rarely are students turned away because they're not able to pay for NYU. But the word scholarship in the US specifically means not need-based. We're mostly need-based, but international students can get need-based aid at NYU.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yes.
It was really insightful. We got to learn a lot about the New York University, and we look forward to many more sessions of this sort. Thanks a lot. So
Yes.
before we close this session, would you like to give a piece of advice, a final advice to the students from India? Most of them are doing their 11th and
Yeah.
some are pursuing their 12th and they are looking to study abroad. So what would you like
Absolutely.
to give a piece of advice to our
Sure.
student community?
Yes. Absolutely. So the main piece of advice I always give students is always have, as we say, plan A, plan B, and a plan C. So plan ahead. It's natural and normal to have one university that is your dream school, but make sure that you also have a few other ones that you also love. Because sometimes you might get in, sometimes you might not, and no matter what, if you plan ahead, you will end up on a campus that will make you successful and make you very happy. So, and I use myself as an example. I did not get into my dream university, but the university I ended up going to was better than I could have imagined. It was wonderful. I loved it. But I was really upset when I didn't get into my top choice. So keep an open mind because you will end up on the right campus. Trust the process, but make sure you plan ahead.
Thank you, Alex, for that piece of advice. I'm sure all the students really benefited from your session. Before we end this webinar, I would like to share two resources with our students. One is the 71 essays book. So this is an ebook which contains 71 essays of Indian students who went abroad and did their higher studies, wherein they share their experiences, challenges, and what helped them to stand apart from the crowd. So this book is put together by Dr. Neeraj Mandana and his whole team. So you can purchase it from our website. The second one is the Ask Us Anything initiative started by the Next Genius webinars, wherein you can send us any queries that is academic related regarding applying to colleges abroad. You can ask us about anything related to academics, and we put your answers on our page For example, we have put it over here, how to create a digital design portfolio for college applications. We have experts and also counselors across India who will record the video or give you live answers for all your queries. So you can ask us anything, and you can DM your queries on our Instagram page. So these are the two initiatives. And also, once again, thank you so much, Alex. We look forward to more webinars from your side, and we look forward to hearing a lot from you. It was a great session, and it was really interesting. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
so much. Thanks to you and Next Genius, and good luck to everyone. You'll all do great.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.